everyone and welcome to the show. And here, it's not so much a show but more of a tell, but hey, that'll do. We are going to explain what happened with the Dark Angels at 1500 points. Yes, the dream has come true. Taking on that all-powerful Necron force again. We drew the Emperor's Will, which is an objective in their half of the field and one in mine. Also, the terrain was set up a bit like a level of Borderlands. So, about 1/3 of the board was all like rocky-looking needles and sort of rocks, formations like that, just scattered about. There was a tall sort of mechanized bridge that went up 3 levels, quite high, and went from my side of the board right over to the opposite side of the board. And it was just about wide enough for like a destroyer. You wouldn't be able to get 2 destroyers side by side, but one and enough room on both sides. So that was an interesting one. I saw it as maybe like an abandoned mining complex. And then off to the side of that was just loads and loads of thematically charred out ruins that were all the same colour, the same kind of blasted sand colour as those rock formations and needles. And so it's just scattered ruins everywhere. So it looks like some sort of bomb has gone off in this area, or maybe a massive war and then virus bomb or something. But it's very cool little bits of terrain, and there was essentially like the buildings were one in front of the other, scattered along like that to make a road on my side, and the same on the opposite side like that. So lots of buildings and bits to get into cover on. I was made to deploy first. What did I have? Well, I had 2 tactical squads with veteran sergeant upgrades and the full-on plasma ×3 options. I combat squadded them and another tactical squad like that again. The exact same configuration. Combat squadded them too. So the 2 heavy weapons teams I tried positioning approximately into a building so that they'd have some cover and be able to fire out at the enemy. The sergeant's portion went off with normal bolt gun marines and just deployed in and amongst and beside ruins, or next to them over on the extreme flank on one side, and one with the company master in with sergeant over on my extreme left, and that was over where my objective was fairly near-ish in a ruins. The enemy's objective was right over on the other side, and he deployed his HQs in a troops unit right on the objective to guard it. So that was lovely. And I had, let's see, the heavy weapons team. One of the heavy weapons teams was in a ruined building, ready to use it as cover and fire at approaching enemy. The other heavy weapons side of it, so that we're talking about the plasma cannon and the plasma gun guy, and then 3 bolt gun marines again with them, and they were upon the bridge, as deep into the deployment zone as I could go. The other side of the bridge, below, a level below, he deployed destroyers, unit of 3 of those damn things. Yeah, he had like scattered forces and those things that produce the scarabs out behind some of the buildings ready, and he had his tank situated in between 2 buildings ready to push on through on one side. A whirlwind parked up behind a ruined building over on my left side as well. I had a Raven Wing squad of 5 over on the extreme left flank, and a Raven Wing squad of 6, which I combat squadded into 3s. And the 1/3 of them was dual plasma and a guy. and they were set off to the extreme right side, and the other 3 had the sergeant in, and they were set hiding near the bridge. So, scouts came down last, and I stuck them in a forward position in the ruins. But looking at the board, I could see they weren't really going to have much of a say in this battle. I mean, I could have got them to try and control the bridge, which could have been handy. It was the other idea, but I decided on trying to support that side up to where the objective was going. So they were in the hard rocks, facing up towards where the enemy objective was placed. Each objective worth 3 points, mystery objective rules in effect. So, my redeployment is, my Warlord trait was useless. It was for reserve roles as usual, and he didn't have any reserves, so yay. I just redeployed the bikes on the extreme left flank forwards, and these bikes that were out on the extreme right, redeployed them more in this side, so they were going to hook up and round and take by surprise. And then the other ones that were situated near the bridge, they came a bit round up as well in support of them. It was about to be turn 1, but he rolled to steal the initiative. He rolled a 6. So he stole the initiative. Behind the rocks from his objectives just comes a ream of troops of Necron warrior things, whatever they are, and another ream of infantry backing them up beside them, and they're just advancing and firing, advancing and firing. Luckily, I'd situated my scouts in area terrain, but they were getting pelted with fire, and I was losing guys, and I was having to try and use their camo cloaks to the best of advantage, and it was all looking really, really bad at that point. My tactical, like I say, were hidden at this point, but my little 5 trying to go up into those rocks to take that objective, I hadn't really properly committed to that side, really, because I knew that he was going to heavily guard it. So I thought, I'll put a token force there, not so much necessarily to threaten the objective, to try and take it. I mean, if an opportunity arises, then all good, and maybe I can get the bikes up there. And I'd set in my mind that, if the bikes are able to disrupt the enemy objective somehow, then maybe the troops can move up in support of that action. But they were going to hold back and try and play defensively. And even if they did that, the enemy will be goaded towards me at the very least, keeping their troops that were situated around that objective, away from my objective, over on this side. Because over on this side, you had a whole bunch of swarm stuff, the swarm producing stuff, tank, and those fast attack things, whatever they're called. The ones with the whipping coils that make you initiative 1, which he always takes. Nasty things. The jump infantry things. Yeah, horrible. He's got the old models, so they just look like these a monstrous head thing with a spine hanging from it that just flies at you. As for the new versions of those models, well, to be honest, they look like something out of the Matrix, something waiting for Neo to turn up and go, "Ha! I pawns Jew, even though I are blind.com." And of course, everything's .com because it's the Matrix. So, right. So I realised, a distinct lack of troops threatening my base. Okay. So I can draw his troops away into my right flank where my objective isn't. Right, we'll keep to that, right. So, they're pressing forward looking frightening as hell. And I knew that there was no chance against them. So, then the destroyers come up onto the bridge and look at my little tactical squad of 5 and obliterate them with a rain of death. And 5 armor-piercing hits. They're a combat squad of 5. So that's my plasma cannon guy, plasma gun, and 3 guys up on the bridge. It's so horrible when someone steals the objective, isn't it? Just everything you've prepared for just goes, "Bleh," and you've got to quickly then move on the fly and think, right, what do I do here? Do I just go into full retreat? No, I can't. I have to attack or manipulate in a different way. You know, just try and draw the enemy away. And if it's retreat, then it's tactically retreat. Make him follow you where he doesn't necessarily want to follow you. You've got to alter your plans. You've got to move on the fly in that sense, haven't you? You've got to adapt to survive. They adapted to survive. They went to ground. So the counter went down next to them, and I rolled 5 dice, and one of them was a 6. And the back guy was the plasma cannon. So I was like, ha ha ha! Plasma cannon's still alive! He's gone to ground! The other 4 are dead, which was really quite bad, but he was very, very sunk at that. And the reason, at that point, the fact that he's stolen the objective means that, you know, I know that unit's screwed. So it's a case of damage limitation. And if I can keep one man alive, who's going to be useless up there, because he's gone to ground, that's another guy that he's going to have to waste a turn on. That's the point of it, really. Okay? So it's slowing them destroyers down by a turn, which I'm all for. The scarabs pressed forward into the ruins of the building and started going straight through them. And he had these horrible things that count as beasts, and they were just tearing through the terrain. Oh my god. And his jump infantry got ever closer and engaged my bikes on the left side straight away. Just bam! Ow! See, the problem was I didn't know that they were jump infantry. I didn't know that they were fast like that, because I don't know. I don't know what all these units do. I'm not very experienced. So as far as I was aware, I was driving my bikes just up towards forces, and, you know, it's a case of suck it and see. Yes, jump infantry engaged me, and the whipping coils did their thing, and the initiative down to 1 nastiness, and oh, ouchie. So yeah, that was very badly harming my bikes. Ouchie, ouchiness. Ended up losing the combat and falling back. Zipped up round and made their... I mean, pretty much just decimated at this point, and made their way up, back up into the centre of the field, back on my turn. On the regroup, just tried pushing up towards his tank with what was left of my forces. The snipers took a pop at the destroyers and just did awfully, as snipers have been doing for me. And the tactical squad, you know, popped their heads out and took a little pop at the oncoming... Oh, I think they took a pop at the destroyers. It may have put a wound on them, I don't recall. Obviously, my plasma guy up on the bridge has gone to ground. The forces in the building manoeuvred round and fired at the jump infantry and just took a little bit off of them, but they were still a big enough unit to hold out, and the other forces took firing at them and maybe dinked them a bit. My forces were just like engaging with guns. Those jump infantry was like, oh my god, quick, pew, 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 pew. This was an important deciding factor, what my whirlwind was going to do. And yet, no Deathwing, no Deathwing. Yes, as I saw it, the whirlwind had 4 potential targets. There was the oncoming troops that were coming out from his objective, but I saw that as a waste of firing, because it was so far away from my objective, they probably wouldn't be able to get over there anyway, and also commit to killing me on that side. There was the all those masses of scarabs, which in hindsight I should have hit, but I thought, oh, do you know what? They look bad, and the jump infantry look bad, but I'm going to try and shoot them down with my joint forces at the moment. But I decided on the destroyers, and the reason being was because I wanted to try and buy a bit of time for my plasma guy for the sheer fact of letting him actually get a shot off, if at all possible. And just to maybe try and capture that bridge with something, because that would be funny. That would be funny, and then we could roll along the bridge and then, you know, start shooting down on his objective and controlling the high ground there. or, you know, just shooting down on everything that was advancing to me on my left side of the field. So I went for them, and in hindsight, yeah, I should have took the Scarabs, because it is a large blast, but anyway, it didn't do any wounds. It was useless. In fact, the whole game, every shoot that the Whirlwind had against different units was terrible. It just was doing no damage at all to anyone, so... I only took it at the 65-point version at least, but hey. And then they came pressing further at me on their first turn, and their fast attack were scary damn bastards. Oh, and by the way, at this point, my bikers who had regrouped, who were like 2 bikers left, they pushed up into the tank and did the crack grenade melter bomb show. And the melter bomb was enough and made that tank explode. Boomage! And we survived the boomage. So that was nice to see that go down. So they'd done their job. Sergeant with melter bombs on a bike, that's how I roll. Get in there and take a vehicle out. Yes, his jump infantry was very, very problematic. Came down and assaulted one of my units that were hiding in the ruins. So they were fighting for their lives against this, and oh god, my poor bikers got just mass assaulted by more troops up on that side. That he did have one unit of troops that were trying to come forward and, you know, attack, but I managed to survive the combat somehow. Between that and one of them great big heavy, like, destroyer type dilly-doo things that produce the Scarabs, whatever they're called. And we fell back again. Now at this point I only had like 1 biker left alive. So I was whipping him around the field and thinking, right, we're going to have to turbo now just to try and stay alive. Come on, hang in there, duck, skid, just try and stay alive. Ah! Of course, I had managed to claim first blood, which is very, very nice. And their mystery objective turned out to be the, what was it? It was a good one anyway. It was a plus something or other. I don't know. But my one turned out to be very, very bad because it was sabotaged. But luckily it didn't hurt anyone. There's that at least. So, my force with the company master in and the 5 guys, they started pulling back actually away from the jump infantry and just trying to fire at them and just chipping off of them. But of course, the fact that his fast attack, his jump infantry now had engaged another one of my lot in the building, they couldn't support fire to go on with what was happening there, and the Scarabs were ever pouring in. And he used, are you ready for this? A tachyon arrow, which is a one-use shot, on my poor plasma cannon guy on the bridge. Oh, come on! So it blew him to pieces. The unit of combat squad down here were getting shredded up some more. The snipers were getting killed and were hiding in the rocks, pulled back and hunkered down into the rocks. The destroyers coming ever closer across the bridge. It just looked really, really bad at this point. I'd got my bikers right up into the enemy zone and managed to swing one of them in behind the bridge where I thought I was protected. But then he'd come round with something, shot the devil out of them, and then came in and engaged them on another side and just obliterated them, the plasma guys and all. So they didn't get anything really very well killed. The other unit of bikers were getting blasted and shot at, and they were running for their lives. They were coming more into centre field again. It was this manoeuvre that was going to prove key. My hope to try and get bikers in behind the enemy lines and harass him from behind to stop his advance, or maybe attempt to take the objective with Terminators. Well, that had all gone down the pan, because he had heavily obliterated my bikes. However, the bikes adapted, and one set of them were still able to homing beacon call in reinforcements. At last, Deathwing arrived. At last. So, the Deathwing smacked down 2 units of the Dark Vengeance stylie of 5 each into the centre of the field in supporting roles. Boom, boom, opening fire, and then things start to actually get hurt. Not as well as they should have, though, I must say. And by the way, all my plasma guys, pretty much every time I fly plasma, I get the gets hot results, and I'm pretty much constantly killing myself with that. So that's always great. I'm very, very skilled at rolling ones, as I've said before. So Deathwing had arrived, and this was it. This was where the opponent was. He saw he was all over me at this point, but then suddenly, 245 points and 245 points again. Here and here, supporting the centre of the line. It was like, if you want this objective, you've got to come through me. Not only are we going to defend, we're going to now press forward into you. The Deathwing is here, biatches. So, just everything was getting shot up at that point. It was very exciting. Assault cannons doing their thing. Assault cannons were actually quite underwhelming, but trying to use split fire so that the assault cannon was firing at the toughness 6 thing, and then the storm bolters were firing at weaker enemies, and really trying to do everything I could to take advantage of defending my crippled defense line in any way I could. So again, at this point, he is actually winning 3-1 because he's got the objective and I've took first blood. Then he ends up with my forces pulling back as they did, engaging my forces in the end, right, the ones with the company master in, right back on my objective. Jump infantry ended up killing my guys that were in the ruins there, finished them off to the man, and it was looking really, really bad. Those scarabs were just pouring forward still. I didn't want to waste Terminators on them, so I kept them away from the scarabs, because I just looked at them and I thought, oh no, tar pit, oh god. I saw them getting close and I saw my whirlwind and I thought, right, quick, go, move, flat out, up the flank as fast as you can. Manoeuvred around the incoming threats. But boy, can those scarabs move, can't they? Ah! And they were so fast, and they just came down, and they were all over my whirlwind suddenly. And even though I'd gone flat out, they just through it with everything they've got. Nom 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 nom. And then it exploded and took out maybe a base worth or so. I don't know anymore. But there's so many scarabs, just so many. It's just it's even a pain for him trying to do anything with them. So the scarabs were in a beautiful position then, sort of like trying to completely decimate my forces. And at this point I knew, alright, look, I've managed to capture my objective now, so I'm actually winning at this point 4-3. But the unit that's holding the objective has got the company master in, so if he falls, he'll get Slay the Warlord. And of course his guy was holding his objective over on this side. No chance of that. Meanwhile, his force is coming forward down into the field, stripping my guys down. I end up with a sniper Sarge left. It forced his troops to concentrate all that fire on trying to kill one little scout. And the destroyers desperately trying to come down to threaten as well. And I ended up with my sergeant with the plasma pistol over on the right side, and just a bolt gun tactical. They were going together, and the destroyers finally came down to meet them off my side of the bridge and went, we are destroy whores! And they pewed and fired and did all that nasty stuff. Somehow they completely managed to miss, and then the sergeant was like, right, this is it. I've got a plasma pistol. You are destroyers. This is my moment. Boom. And I roll a 1. I'm very, very good at rolling 1s. So, yeah, they ended up dead from the destroyers. And so I've lost the complete right side of the field at this point. Any hope of pushing up and obviously getting the objective, which was always going to be slim, was gone. The bikers, at this point, I just sent up into the enemy to support fire as best as they could. We managed to take out a few more bits of units and the odd thing here and there. So it was nice to see them being able to at least get some of their points back. And at this point, the Deathwing were just literally holding the line still. And the Scarabs came down, smacked into my objective line. And basically, when they assaulted the Whirlwind, it actually turned out to be a double assault, because they also co-assaulted the unit that was on the objective, and they started munching through them. It was terrible. And before that, the Scarabs had eaten my one of my sets of bikes as well, and munched right through them. So they really were devastating. Somehow, the Rolls came out lucky that he managed to eat my bikes. I don't know, man. I don't know, but it was a hell of a thing to behold. It just looked awful. And the Deathwing are just trying to desperately turn this situation around. And they're even taking losses. I'm rolling ones for saves and things. And I ended up with like 2 Deathwing left in one unit and like 3 in another. So that was looking quite bad. And they were getting worn down. And then basically, towards the end of the game, the troops on his objective side were, as I predicted, too far away to come across and threaten. The Scarabs had pinned down my unit, but when the game ended on turn 5, my company master was still alive, and my sergeant was still alive critically. So he counts as the troop's choice on the objective. And here's the thing. He was happy that he had a unit threatening my objective, but I then pointed out, oh, but it's a swarms unit. And that's when he went, oh no, of course. He tried to use swarms as a denial unit. That was the plan of that, because I'd put the tank there. He was so focused on taking the Scarabs to go after the tank on where the objective was, that he then tried to use them in all haste, thinking of them as a denial unit. So it's a case of dying to try and manipulate the enemy's thought processes. So at this point, I've got 3 and a 4th for First Blood. Wow. And he's got the 3 for having his objective, and he managed to get Linebreaker over in here. And the Terminators had started turning around, to be honest, and trying to engage the Scarabs, to start to try and wade into them in close combat by the end, because it was that desperate. It was like, quick, keep the company master alive, whatever you do. But, it ended on turn 5. So it was 4 apiece because he had Linebreaker. And he decimated all my forces that had gone up. But here's the very, very naughty thing I did. One of them little bikers, because he'd done the flat-out moves that started over on the extreme left flank, was still alive. So, I think it was the sergeant as well. I made him zip up away around behind a building and hide there. Linebreaker. And then, of course, his forces weren't going, it was too far away, committed into this to be able to turn around and come back and get him. And he's on the other side of the board, his lot up around, holding the objective and coming forward, chasing my scattered forces here. So you had a huge lot coming after my small lot. Couldn't threaten the bike up there either. So my one little bike parked up, stayed there, and just turbo boosted back and forth, but behind the buildings just in case something got through. And somehow managed to win me the game because Linebreaker And I was like, oh my god! I was only putting it there as a sort of deterrent, really. I wasn't even putting it there to be like cheesy sort of thing. Oh, I must win and manipulate the rules or whatever. Because you've got to try and do line breaker, haven't you? I was trying to get into enemy territory and force him to worry about turning back. That was the heart of it, really. Give him problems to deal with. He's given me problems. I've got to put pressure back on him, or I'll just sit back and get completely munched on, won't I? So somehow, even though it felt like I'd lost because we took so much hammering, somehow the stoic nature of the Dark Angels just hung in there, and that sergeant stayed alive, just at his objective, just enough, just reaching with one hand and just about his fingertips into the area of it. I will hold it! I will hold it! And the biker's up in the enemy zone saying, I am now gathering intel on the enemy. I shall observe their battle plans and then drive off, and they'll never see me go. All Ravenwing styly like they would. So, an interesting engagement, and somehow I won 5-4. If it had gone on another turn, I think I'd have been for it. Because I'd have had 5, maybe, but I think he would have probably at least had Slay the Warlord. Well, possibly. I don't know. At that point, the company master had taken a wound, and if he'd have at least killed the sergeant, then I'd have definitely lost, because that would have been the objective gone. So really gripping, down to the wire game, and I think it demonstrates 2 things. Firstly, just how powerful Necrons can be. I mean, they just they just overwhelm you with absolute shock and awe, with weaponry that will just kill everything, and really solid toughness. And they are an army that you really have to have your brain switched on to kill. As for the Dark Angels, it tells me about them that they are really truly stubborn to the last second, and it felt like Dark Angels, something Dark Angels would do, didn't it? Sort of holding out just to that last moment. Interesting game. He enjoyed it. And I was dismayed at it and just surprised. So I've come away kind of making internal notes about that. My first 1,500 points game like this. We'll take it from there. So anyway, that's the report. It's all gone down, and I might try and use this force to face off against the demons. That would be funny, wouldn't it? And of course, Craig's demon force eat the Necrons for breakfast. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll see you at the next game, everybody. See you at the table.